Hey guys, Kevin Cook here, and I'm about to jump into a starter replacement project on this old Lexus. Now this is an old Lexus. Think around the time Bush Sr. was leaving office and Clinton was entering. So, where's the starter? Well, that's a good question. So the starter is somewhere probably about a foot underneath all this stuff. So the starter's completely buried. You're gonna see the first, well actually the second step is drain engine coolant. For a starter replacement, yeah, so it's buried underneath. We've gotta remove intake, throttle body, upper intake manifold, there's a lower intake manifold, all the fuel injectors and everything, fuel rail, and eventually we're gonna find that it's buried somewhere down in here. You can't even see it. So we've got a lot of work to do. Let's get started. So that's all the stuff I've pulled off so far. It's mostly plastic dressings and air intake manifold stuff. So now the next step is to remove the throttle body, then the upper intake manifold, and then we dig down further to find the starter. But whoa. Check out those blue spark plug wires. Those stock? No way, man. Those are aftermarket NGKs that I replaced when I did the timing belt project. That was a huge project. Huge thank you to Mr. Rodney Beckwith with your help on that one. For a minute, I thought I was in over my head. So on to the next step, we'll get those items pulled and we'll see what's underneath. So when you're dealing with hoses and plastic parts that are 27 years old, you're gonna find that they're kind of brittle, and you know, that's 27 years of being subject to heating and cooling. So I've been keeping a list of all the rubber hoses I'm gonna replace. That one runs from the PCV valve to the throttle body, which I just pulled off. So I've got the air intake plenum off. And now you can see the lower intake, and you can almost see, actually, right back in there, that's the starter. So we've got to dig a little deeper to get to it. So that's everything I've torn off the top of the engine. Are we to the starter yet? Wait for it. Wait for it. Yep, that's it right there. So now we just got to take that out and replace it and then put everything back together, right? All right, I don't know who assembled this, if it was children or elves or what little creatures with tiny little hands reaching back here and assembling the stuff, because I cannot get this. So this is, I'm trying to get this out, right? So this is the coolant bypass, but this EGR, California only, smog, whatever, is in the way. Well, I can't get this off because the wiring harness is in the way. So I've been unbraiding this wiring harness, all this to get to the start. I need to get this bolt out. Just took a little persuasion, that's all. All right, so the way the starter works is when you turn your key in the ignition, this gear pops out, meshes with the flywheel gear, spins around, and starts up the engine. So this is the old one. Starting to get some play in that. You hear that? This is the brand new one. No play at all. So I've reached a point I'm pretty familiar with in taking on big automotive projects. It's taken a lot longer than I thought. I found other things that I decided to fix. I got on my back and did exhaust. I swore I'd never do exhaust again, but I had to replace something that was only accessible after tearing all the stuff off. So it's taken a lot longer than I thought. And I'm not a mechanic. Somehow I forgot that. I'm a realtor. So it's taken a lot longer. I'm at the point where I just want to get it done, right? I've got it all torn apart. I just want to get it done. So originally I didn't plan on doing the valve cover gaskets, but they were leaking oil. And I was still enthusiastic at that point. So I decided to do the valve cover gaskets. You put the actual rubber gasket in. And then you're supposed to use a special Toyota sealant. And for those of you who know me, you know I typically like using the good stuff. It's just, you know, I obsess over the little things, and so I like using like the OEM stuff, just the good stuff. I don't like using cheap parts on cars. So I ordered it. It hasn't arrived. I'm at the point I don't care anymore. I just want to get this put back together. I've got something that'll work just as good, probably just as good. It's this old gasket maker I had in the toolbox, so I'll use that. So I've got, I don't know, roughly 28 pounds of instruction manuals. I mean, this boy is thick. But neither one of these really goes into detail on how to install this EGR valve, right? So I go based on the procedure for putting everything back together after installing the starter, and it's showing me this EGR valve is in front of the coolant bypass and in front of the wiring harness, right? Here it is. Here's wiring harness. Here's the coolant bypass back here. Guess what? It's supposed to go behind. I'm checking out this tutorial online, and this one doesn't have the coolant bypass installed, but they've routed it behind. I know that's the right way to do it. So, hey, guess what? I get to take all that stuff apart and reroute this behind. So, yeah, cool. All right. Okay, so I got the EGR pipe routed correctly. You'll see it's behind the wiring harness and the coolant bypass. I've got this wiring harness put back together for the most part, and I've got these mating surfaces all cleaned up. This is where the lower intake manifold is going to go. So I'm almost ready to install that. So I gotta get the gaskets in place and get it lined up and get it ready to go. I'm trying to work here, but you know, Sarah's in here just chatting on the phone. You know, I'm trying to do garage work, you know, and she's just in here. You know, I don't know how I get anything done. But hey, all you cool cats and kittens, check this out. It's starting to look like an engine again. Dang. So now the next step is we have to install the air intake plenum right here. And so you see I've got these surfaces cleaned up and I've got the gaskets in place. Now it's time to fit it and bolt it down. We're getting there. We're getting close. So I'm about ready to reconnect the throttle body right here. But honestly, this stuff took forever trying to get all the wires routed correctly and all the vacuum lines connected where they need to go. But we're done with that. So it's time to put the throttle body on. I can't wait to start this thing up. I hope it fires up. I'm going to be so bummed out if it doesn't fire up. I'm on step number 35. Check that the engine starts. It's a simple sentence, but boy, a lot is riding on this because I've spent a lot of time taking this apart. So I'm going to kick the fuel pump on. We'll let that get fuel back up to the engine. Now here we go. Nothing. Oh, there she goes. There she goes! I got it! Yeah! All right, the good thing is it started. The bad thing is it's gushing out gasoline. What? Look, because I backed it out of the garage. Ooh, yeah, so it's pouring out gasoline, right? I think I see some accumulating in here. I think it might be the gaskets on the fuel injectors because those were getting old. I should have replaced them, but I didn't order new ones. So I got to figure out what's going on. I'd love to be able to film this, just gushing out gas to show you guys. But for the sake of not burning the garage down or the car, I'm just going to point to it when the engine is off. It's this front injector right here. It's just spewing out gas, right? So I think it's probably got to be the gasket. I think it's probably a failed gasket, which means everything I put back on the top of the engine, well, half of what I put back on needs to come off for me to fix that. So part 2 of the car repair coming up.